Good afternoon and welcome everyone to this eDiscovery SaaS Revolution webinar. My name is Jeffrey Wolff and I serve as the eDiscovery Director for ZyLAB North America. I'll be discussing today with you a bit about our eDiscovery solution in ZyLAB, as well as some of the information that might be useful in do-it-yourself eDiscovery, how it relates to automation in eDiscovery, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the use cases that we've seen from our customers. Just some housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded, so you will be able to review it or share it with colleagues after the fact. I will take questions at the end if there are any, so please utilize the question function in the GoToWebinar function, the control panel that you have in front of you. You can, your phones are all muted, but you can type into the chat function, and you can also use your question function, and I'll be referring to those at the end. So let's get started. Today, obviously, the topic is primarily around eDiscovery, and it's by definition what we've seen is the three most important aspects of the problems that we have with today's eDiscovery is its unpredictable nature. Cases from customers that we've spoken with, cases can range in vast sizes and scope. The number of cases that come in any month or year, there's no predictability to it, and this makes it very difficult, of course, from a resource management standpoint to manage how, if you're trying to host something in-house for eDiscovery purposes, the elasticity necessary for your IT infrastructure, or even if you're trying to use a service provider, the budget that's involved for your hosting are really difficult to plan. So that's one of the things that we've come across a lot. There's also a large time gap between when you identify the content that you have that is available for eDiscovery purposes, as well as getting that content processed into the review environment. There are too many manual steps in that. There's not enough automation, and so you'll see as we walk through the process in this discussion in this webinar today about how we can address some of those things. But most importantly, what we wanted to talk about is how the software as a service model, the SaaS model, and more specifically a self-service SaaS model, is a natural fit for eDiscovery. What that effectively means is that if you take eDiscovery as a service rather than a product you buy, you're not making any upfront investment, but in fact there's no infrastructure involved. You don't have to develop a large in-house project to implement and train and maintain such a system. You can use what I like to refer to as the pay by the drip approach. Just pay for what you need and scale up and down as you go. That's kind of the big one. You know, if you're a firm or organization that routinely has, let's call them average size cases, range 50 to 100 or 200 gigs per case or per matter, and suddenly you're presented with a matter where there's going to be at least half a terabyte or a terabyte worth of data. Being able to scale up the infrastructure needed, whether it's on-premise or hosted, to accommodate processing and reviewing and hosting that much data is a challenge. You need a solution that has an elastic nature that can accommodate that. You want to be able to upload your data really quickly and immediately get started, and that means not having to wait for an entire data set to be processed before you can begin review, but to be able to have small amounts of data available in the review environment automatically, have it automatically prioritize documents that you need to look at first, and make your review more efficient while you're waiting for the rest of it to be finished in the processing phase. Of course, software as a service, one of the advantages that any application on software as a service has over an on-premise implementation is that it's always the latest technology. So that's actually a really important point because, for example, our ZyLAB software as a service offering actually updates its environment roughly every 2 weeks. So almost twice a month, there is a new release of functionality and features available to our software as a service customers, whereas our on-premise customers get there's new functionality to them every quarter. So we effectively 4 times a year will roll up our our software into releases for on-premise customers. But the reality of any enterprise software implementation is that you're not going to upgrade an enterprise software application 4 times a year, even if the vendor provides you with that upgrade. eDiscovery is a very complicated beast, and then as such, you probably would schedule 1, at most 2 upgrades a year. And so you can see that there's a big gap between the adoption of new functionality for software as a service customers who get it right away versus enterprise on-premise customers who have to wait a considerable amount of time. Of course, in addition to that, you have to, if you have an on-premise solution, you have to staff it. You have to have people who know how to manage the infrastructure, who know how to manage the application. A lot of that is solved with a software as a service project. And of course, you can manage it. You can manage the project much more yourself without the need to bring in a whole team of people. If you're trying to accomplish more with less, having the infrastructure in place to do software as a service is going to be much more beneficial to you. Some have concerns about the cloud or any implementation of data or application software in the cloud. Obviously, those fears have, from 5 years ago or 10 years ago, have been assuaged quite a bit, as more and more of the customers we speak to, in fact, now have cloud-first initiatives, meaning that any new application they want to bring into the enterprise, or anytime they're replacing an existing application, they're directed by either their IT departments or security infrastructure departments to take a cloud-first initiative. If the application has a cloud function or a software as a service function, that should be the primary means to deploy, unless there can be some proven reason why that is not a valid option within that organization. Just generally, security is going to be better nowadays in the cloud than even with on-premise installations. For example, I'll talk a little bit about Microsoft Azure. That is the infrastructure that ZyLAB uses to host our software as a service application. And Microsoft Azure goes through all of the security certifications that are needed to host enterprise applications for all the major Fortune 500 companies. They can do security far better than a lot of on-premise commercial customers that I've talked to are able to even secure their own environments. In addition, they also have better physical security. They have the ability to manage their staff that has access to the data centers, security background checks on all personnel, biometric and forensic access methods to the data centers, security monitoring of data centers. And when I say security monitoring, I'm not even talking about software security. I'm talking about physical security of managing access to the building and video camera logs of everyone who comes in and goes and what they've touched. There's just better physical security from a cloud provider standpoint, even than most office locations today. But touching on cybersecurity, they're at the forefront. Cloud providers are at the forefront, especially ones as large as Microsoft, of taking the burden of hardware and software security, because they have a larger liability. They have to make sure that they are protecting the data and applications of thousands or tens of thousands of their customers. Plus, they can also provide better uptime. Ultimately, most cloud providers have a multiple nines, 99.9999 uptime rating for their infrastructures, and that is simply typically a better, on average, uptime rating than most offices can get for their own on-premise installations. As I said, Microsoft Azure is the platform that ZyLAB utilizes for ZyLAB ONE eDiscovery SaaS product. It's also the infrastructure that Microsoft uses for Office 365. So if your organization uses Office 365 for Exchange and SharePoint and OneDrive, etc., that is being hosted in Azure, and that is a cloud-based environment. It exists throughout the United States and, in fact, throughout the world. It keeps your content in one place. Specifically, if you're an Office 365 customer and a ZyLAB customer, and you utilize our SaaS product, you're keeping the data in the cloud. So you're collecting from one cloud data center into sometimes the same cloud data center, if not one nearby. We have functionality to collect directly from Office 365 resources without bringing that data on your premises. So it makes the security officers very happy because they know that the data has not been copied into multiple places. If you have a large matter that is unusually large, we can spin up additional resources in Azure very easily to accommodate the processing of that large matter. Azure blobs are a way to store content in a less expensive storage method than traditional file-based systems. And Azure can integrate with on-premise resources, so that's the best of both worlds. You can actually utilize, for example, on-premise Active Directory integrated to Azure, and utilize those trusted identities for access to cloud-based resources. I think this one is a given. Of course, as everyone knows, every year the amount of data that is being created increases. It is often referred to as the data wave, but I like to refer to it more as the data snowball. As we roll along here, as more content sources are available, as more functions are moved completely away from paper entirely into electronic formats, the amount of data that's created on a regular basis is increasing. As it relates to eDiscovery, the types of data is increasing. I mean, in today, it's still 80% of an average matter is email, and that has not really changed. But of course, if you remember that with every email message comes every attachment, and those attachments can be any file format. But that other 20% keeps changing in what isn't now part of a discoverable matter. What electronically stored information do the attorneys in a meet and confer actually now agree upon? Hey, you know, we used to exclude audio and video files because there was no technical way for us to accomplish that. Well, now there is audio search functionality. We used to exclude text messages on cell phones and the social media posts of corporations because there was no good way to get that data. Well, archive functions exist now to collect the data from cell phones, both at a forensic level as well as at a carrier level if you want to go that level. As far as social media is concerned, there are a number of different applications out there that can archive websites and social media accounts for organizations, and because that data can become discoverable in cases. And you need a solution that can accommodate not just email collection or a file system collection, but collection from multiple sources, and to bring that into one repository for you to search, review, redact, and produce. As it relates to the data wave, you have to understand how much data you have, how much data you need to process, and what workflows you're going to utilize. So how do we make discovery easier? And that comes down to a number of functions. Obviously, rules-based discovery is the way of the past. The way of the future is much more rooted in artificial intelligence and data science, and we can use those technologies to make the electronic data accessible, enrich the data. In other words, increase the amount of metadata that we can get out of that by, for example, entity extraction. In the past, you know, we used to be able to identify that someone sent an email and someone received an email. But if John Smith's name was mentioned in the email message and you didn't know to look for John Smith, you wouldn't necessarily come across his name. So having an application that can intelligently read the body of the message and identify people, places, and organizations and extract that information and enrich the metadata is important. You want to be able to analyze that data. You want to be able to automatically classify that data and organize it in such a way that it can be consumed quicker. We have less time to do more work with more content every day, so you need to be efficient, and you need tools that make you more efficient in that practice. When you come into an eDiscovery review, you want to already have content that's been pre-classified for you, that's been pre-redacted for you, before the reviewer even starts looking at the data, and there are functions available to do that. You want to create visualizations, and I'll show you some examples of that in a little bit. But you want to be able to visualize the data as opposed to just being able to run a search. You need a way to identify the content in such that you can answer the most basic questions about that data set, which, you know, the typical W questions: who, what, when, where, why, how, and how much. You need to be able to answer those questions, and you need to be able to get to those answers quickly. So as it relates to ZyLab, we started offering, we've been offering the eDiscovery solution now for over a decade. We are actually been in the information compliance and search space for 3 decades now. And we started about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, offering an eDiscovery software as a service product. Which in the past we focused primarily on commercial organizations and municipalities, federal agencies. We've now focused quite a bit more on law firms, and as it relates to law firms, we've focused on the software as a service functionality. And our straightforward goal is to allow organizations with as little managed service as possible to do as much as they can self-service. We do have an excellent managed service component behind our software as a service product, but the ultimate goal there is to make our customers completely self-sufficient. Be able to upload your data, have your data automatically processed, allow you to review your data, to change whatever you need to change within that review environment, and then to export your data, produce it out, all with probably no hand-holding if possible. The managed service function is there as a safety net, but we want customers to be able to you know, if at 3 o'clock in the morning you want to log into the ZyLab environment, upload some data, do a quick review and export that data before anybody comes to the office at 7 a.m., we want you to be able to do that. And today we've gotten to that point. Of course, if there's more complex things, or if you have process exceptions that you need to deal with, or unusual production requests, we do have that managed service functionality, and that person is always available to answer questions and address any needs you have. But like I said, our primary goal is self-service. Today, you are able to upload your content in a self-service functionality through ZyLab ONE's cloud upload, and I'll show you that. And you're able to request that your service provider collect data from Office 365 automatically. But in the future, we're going to allow that Office 365 collection to be self-service. So you'll be able to go into the ZyLab application and put your Office 365 credentials in and have it collect the data for you and process it right away. This is a screenshot of what our self-service upload functionality looks like. You can drag and drop documents, or more likely you would drag and drop zip files or PST files onto the screen, or select them through dialog. You'd identify the custodian name and the source that belongs to this content set. You give the upload a name so it can be tracked, and then you hit start upload. The data is pushed through your browser to our servers, and for our US customers, our Microsoft Azure hosting location for the software as a service product is within the continental United States. It's actually located in the central US region, and so your data never leaves the continental US. It is processed automatically, and then when it's finished, it will let you know on the screen that it's completed, and you can go review it. But actually, you don't even have to wait for the entire document upload to be complete. Within a few minutes of your uploading data, the first few documents in your review will begin to start trickling into review, as we process documents in batches. So we take your upload, we open up the containers, we process the documents, and then as we complete the analysis of a family, we move that family over into the review environment. So you don't have to wait for the entire job to be done to start your review. We do a lot within that processing step, and I often gloss over that, but it's worth mentioning. In our what we call our deep processing, whether you're going to do complete review or you're just going to use our solution for ECA, or early case assessment, we will process over 700 different file formats without any problem. We can open up any compound or compressed file format. Even NCase images of forensic images can be uploaded to our system. We will extract any embedded objects. So if you have a Word document that has an image and another spreadsheet embedded inside it, those are extracted, and they're provided with attributes so that you link the child to the parent. Any PDFs and images that are not natively searchable will be OCR'd automatically. If it's an optional service, but we do provide the ability to create an audio file or video file index. So if you have media content that you want searchable, we can create an audio index for that. That is actually an optional feature of our SaaS environment. We do a lot of the ECA type of assessment for you automatically. So for example, we'll build an email thread. You do your thread and email analysis for you. We'll do a deduplication analysis and even near deduplication analysis. We can do some basic text mining. We can set up auto classifications to pre-classify. So for example, if you wanted to say any messages that had this person's name or this person's email address, or if you found a social security number or a passport number or a credit card number, go ahead and tag it with this functionality. We can set those rules up so your content is auto-classified as it's being processed in. We can do clustering or topic modeling and show you the important clusters and topics within your data set. And then we have a number of accelerators to speed up your review or make your review more efficient. There's visual dashboards with our facets. We have very advanced tagging workflows that allow you to, with sophisticated logic behind them, so you can create any type of tag you want, and they can be permission-based, so you can set up multiple pass reviews and have people access tags. Maybe first-pass reviewers don't have all the tags, and second-pass reviewers have more tags, and then a final QC person has access to all the tags. As I said, we have a number of AI functionalities, artificial intelligence for predictive coding, and topic clustering is also using the AI data science. Those use a binary machine learning to train our classifier to look for responsive documents within your data set. We have optional machine translation, so you can, if you have non-English documents that you need translated to English to make them searchable in English, you can do that. We support over 120 languages for bidirectional machine translation. But you can also search non-English documents right in our review interface without translating them if you have a native non-English document speaker. Automated redaction, I mean, everyone has manual redaction, but automated redaction for the ability to find and redact content either by keyword or pattern within our system is a huge time saver. And then, of course, we support multiple formats for production of your data out. The visual analytics, this is an example of a facet screen, kind of shows you, and these facets are customizable. You can customize what you see, whether it's just custodian and source, or if you want to see a breakdown of emails by sender domain, reviewer domain, email sent date, month and year, the review status of your documents in the matter. If it's automatically tagged a bunch of documents for PII, personal identifiable information, you could see what documents were tagged and for what reason. So these facets allow you to filter your data down without even running a search. You can actually just click on a value and it will filter that data set down for you. Here's an example of, I know I touched briefly on our technology-assisted review functionality, and we do entire webinars solely on this topic. So if you're interested in technology-assisted review, please reach out to us. I can give you, we have one coming up in next month on technology-assisted review, a live webinar. We also have a fantastic ebook that we've created as an asset that we can provide you with. It explains how we do predictive coding, what data sciences we've utilized for our TAR module. It also talks about our topic modeling and how you can use our topic modeling to start the TAR process. In other words, you can have the system create this topic wheel for the data in your matter, and from it you can create issues that you can use to begin looking for responsive content within your data set. This is our new interface. This is a completely redesigned implementation. You can see I kind of showed you before the old interface on the facets. This is what the facets look like now, and this has been rebuilt in HTML5 entirely. So it is browser agnostic. You can use the browser of your choice on your desktop, laptop, even on tablets. It works very nicely on iPads, as you can see. It is responsive design, so regardless of the amount of real estate that you have, it will adjust the screen accordingly. And you can get more facets on the screen at a time. You can review your documents here. You can run your searches and do all your tagging. I touched on this auto redaction, but I just wanted to go back and give a shout out to one of our customers. Yasmina at Legadex gave us this quote about our auto redaction functionality, just to being able to really quickly tag all of the content using an auto redaction rule, which, by the way, is not something you have to go into the back end and do. It is a UI-based configuration. You just add a rule and say, hey, I'm looking for anything with these keywords or anything with this pattern, whether it's a social security number or passport number or credit card number, phone number, whatever, and have it auto-redact with and whatever, put whatever text you want on it. That is just going to speed up your review that much, especially if you're doing. We have a lot of customers who come to us for public disclosure requests, cities and state municipalities that have to do public disclosure requests or FOIA requests, and they have to redact content that is exempt under their state statutes. Just being able to do this automatically is a huge time saver. This is what the review environment looks like, the document review screen. So you can see here there's quite a bit of information provided to the reviewer. The document itself, of course, is in the center. This is an image view of the document, and the reason it's an image view is that we, like I said, we support hundreds of different file formats, but we don't want the user to have any of those native applications on their system. So what you're looking at is an image representation of the document, regardless of the file format. In this case, it was an email. And so all you need is a browser. No other additional software is needed. You can see here the search highlight, hit highlighting in yellow. We also have persistent keyword hit highlighting in green. And if you want to search within the document, you can do that and it will appear in pink. On the left, you've got conversation threading, so you can see the email threading as a result here. In fact, not only we do indicate the email threading, but we also indicate if there was a message missing from the thread. That, you know, for example, we can tell that Daniel replied to a message that was part of this thread, but the original message that was sent to him was not uploaded as part of the data set. And so we're identifying that as a missing message. You can see the document family of this message, what the attachments were. Here there was a zip, and inside the zip there was an Excel spreadsheet and a PDF. We show you those, and you can jump to those. All the metadata properties of the document you're looking at. Tagging is over on your right, as well as the ability to manually redact and manually annotate the document. You can apply individual text level redaction, annotations, as well as document level remarks, reviewer remarks that will never export out of the system. So both the annotations and reviewer remarks are work product of the system. You can look for near duplicates, and if there were exact duplicates, there would be a duplicate icon that would appear next to the document name on the top. And if the reviewer user has the permission to, they can download the document from the system in either native or a PDF format. We've gone through a lot of steps here to make this easy to use. That's one of the comments we constantly get about our product, is that while still powerful as an eDiscovery platform, it is very easy to learn how to use the product. Typical learning curve for a standard review user, they can be up and running in an hour or two. I've taught contract reviewers who've never seen our product before in 45 minutes how to use the system, and they were up and running. And they actually said that they found it far easier to use than some of our competitors. We see all types of cases that are utilized in an eDiscovery system like this. So it doesn't really matter what size of case you have. In fact, we have customers that come to us with small cases. They'll do their entire review in the platform, or larger cases where they might in fact just do an ECA and call the data down before they provide it to their vendor. That saves them money. I mean, that's ultimately, it's going to save you money if you're calling the data down before you provide it to your to outside counsel or to your service provider, to another service provider, if you want to call it down here in our system. But it is a fully functional review environment. I don't have a chance to show you the production system today, but there is a full production export module as well for exporting your data with whatever load file formats you might need. It's easy to manage because you don't need a large lit support department. You don't need an IT department to manage this because it is software as a service, and it will really scale to accommodate any size organization. As far as the types of matters are concerned, these vary widely. So, the most common use for eDiscovery is civil or criminal litigation, but we see a lot of use of contract arbitration, M&A, internal investigations. A lot of organizations are now using their eDiscovery tools for HR investigations. And as I mentioned, also, city and state municipalities are using eDiscovery tools for public disclosure requests and FOIA requests because it's the same it's effectively the same use case. It's just the tool set doesn't change in the multiple use case scenario here. Ultimately, it's a way to aggregate data from multiple systems that are typically disparate, bring that data together, make it deeply searchable, deeply indexed, deeply processed, and then review it as one data set, and then export it and produce it into some other fashion. Getting started, as I mentioned, with SaaS, with the software as a service, is really a short has a really short turnaround cycle. So if you decide you want to get started with us, an environment can be up and running in less than a week. Very simple contract to go through for SaaS. We provision a tenant for you in our environment. We will train your users. Typically it's done remotely, but we can come on site for larger customers to train in person. We can work with your existing matters. You can convert them, export them out of your current system, and bring them into ours, or you can just try it out with new matters. A lot of our customers will come on board and transition their old matters out in their old system and just start new matters in our system. You can create your new matters yourself and upload the data right to the system, or you can simply ship us the documents, or ship us the load files with the documents, and we will bring them into the system for you. And then, of course, we have additional services that are available. There is a trial going on where you could try out the software, and so you're able to go to our website, and there'll be more information when we send out the thank you messages from this webinar, along with a link to the recording. So if you're interested in taking a look at the system, by all means, I encourage you to do that. If you have any questions at this point, I'll go ahead and just pause for a minute and see if there are any questions from the audience. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and wrap things up. This is meant to be a 30-35 minute webinar, and we're coming right up to that point. I don't see any questions in the queue, so I will go ahead and thank you all for your participation today. As I said, this was recorded, and so this will be available online, and we'll send you a link to the recording if you need to share it. Again, I appreciate your attendance today, and for more information about ZyLab, please visit www.zylab.com. Thank you again.